are live and greetings to you from Boston. I'm here for the Inbound conference. Has been an amazing conference so far. No sleeping at all. So I look even crazier than my normal self. So I'm really excited for today's interview because I have my dear friend, Vicky O'Neill, joining us live from Ohio.
Yes.
And today we are discussing the differences between sales and marketing, which is something I personally don't know much about, and I'm excited to learn more about. And we are live on LinkedIn. Hello, everyone, LinkedIn. We are also live on Facebook, on my personal page and public page, and Periscope, and on YouTube. So let us know where you are joining us from in the comment section, geographically and social media wise. And my name is just in case you don't know me, I'm the host of this weekly live streaming show, Classroom Without Walls, and in which I interview amazing leading digital marketers like Vicky to talk about social media and digital marketing. As I mentioned earlier, today we are going to discuss the differences between sales and marketing. So before we get started with our interview today, I just want to briefly introduce Vicky to you guys. And I had the great honor to connect with Vicky in person in Ohio when I got stuck at the Dayton airport. So she's very nice to pick me up. So Vicky is a marketing and sales coach, and she's also #a persona queen. So she really helps you to identify your ideal persona for your customers. And Vicky is also the host of Connect the Dots, and a really popular and amazing podcast that help us understand how we can connect the dots of sales and marketing, in which we're going to discuss more later today. And Vicky has 20 plus years of experience in corporate, in startup company, in the digital marketing environment. And she is the kindest person ever. And if you guys are not following her, definitely follow her. And I feel so honored to have Vicky on the show today. So welcome to the show, Vicky. And thank you so much for joining us live.
I'm so excited to be here. I thank you so much for inviting me. It's such an honor to be a part of your live show. And I think I mentioned this before. This is my very first live show ever.
You are doing such a great job. And do you want to add anything to my very brief introduction?
I think you did an excellent job. Pretty much all that experience has been in marketing and sales, most of it marketing. But yes, I've been in different capacities, different roles, startups, corporations. I've done it all.
Oh, that's amazing. So I can't wait. And I know many of us are excited about this. You are such a celebrity in the social media space. Everyone's excited. So are you ready to get started?
Yes.
And so share with us, how did you get started on this journey? Like, since when did you start to try to kind of understand the difference between sales and marketing? So share the why behind your journey with us.
Okay, yeah. So it was actually at a big company that I worked for about 20 years ago. And it was a company that was a sales organization, but everything around the sales organization was, marketing supported them, customer service, everybody supported them. So I was in the marketing department and I worked my way up through different positions there. But we worked so closely with the sales teams throughout the country. We were involved in all of their planning meetings, all of their kickoff meetings, all of their product strategizing, like everything. And while I was there, I actually saw an opportunity to go through sales training. And I said, I can be a better marketer if I understand the salesperson. So the sales training at the time, very rigid. It was a 6-week long, very strenuous sales training. So I learned everything I needed to, and then was able to go out and actually apply those sales skills out in the market. So hit 191% of my objective. But then I was able to take those skills and bring it back to the marketing department and apply it to what I was doing in my job. And that's when I was like, this is such a critical piece of the puzzle. Those two really need to be working together no matter what company you're in or no matter what your role is, it's just critical that those two are aligned.
Yeah, so true, so true. So I can't wait to get started on our discussion and learn more. So share with us, what do you think are some important differences between sales and marketing? And I personally feel like many of us, we kind of use the two concepts interchangeably without really understanding the subtle and important differences. So share with us, what are the differences between sales and marketing?
Okay. Well, I think a lot of us don't realize that we're already in sales as a marketer, especially as an entrepreneur. If you're a small business owner, if you're in any type of role where you're responsible for revenue coming in, you're a salesperson. But those two titles separately, marketing essentially in its simplest form is about all of the pre-work, all of the persona creation, all of the content creation, the email marketing, a lot of like those behind the scene things. So if you think of The Wizard of Oz, and in that scene where you have the great and powerful Oz, it's this great grandiose, person. And then behind the curtain is the person who's actually operating it. Well, the person behind the curtain is marketing. And that grandiose thing that you see out there is sales. Or if you want to put it in sports terminology, it could be all of the practices that you have in soccer or football if you're in Europe, for those European people. Those practices are the marketing. You're practicing for a game, which is the sale. And then all of those games and all of those tournaments and everything leads up to the World Cup. That's like your big sale. So it's all of that pre-work, all the training that happens ahead of time is like marketing, preparing sales for the big event.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a great way to think about this. So why do you think many of us kind of confuse those two concepts?
I think because today a lot of what we do is online. And if we're in social media, we're posting content, especially as entrepreneurs, we're also responsible for, the sales. So we're posting content, we're connecting with people, we're creating relationships, and then we're also talking to them about our products and our services and how we can solve that problem. So all of the posting and the messaging and all of that is the marketing piece. And then actually the sale, getting the contract, collecting the money, that's the sale. So I think there's a lot of confusion just because we really do wear both hats, and we just want to put ourselves in one bucket and say we're either marketing or we're sales. And there's a lot of crossover. So I think that creates some confusion. But really, if someone were to think about their role, it could be both.
Yeah. Very interesting. Very interesting. So like you kind of briefly mentioned some of the differences. I wonder if there are also similarities between sales and marketing that you can share with us.
Yeah. So the similarities is that both need to understand the customer. So understand who the customer is, where they spend the majority of their time. Is it on LinkedIn? Is it on Twitter? Is it on Facebook? Wherever. And then also for some businesses, it's geographically, just depending on the type of business that you run. But both need to understand the customer. And in order to do that, it's going through that whole persona creation process. So that's like an in-depth interview of who are these people that need my particular product or service? Or what problem am I solving for them? How can I help them? And marketing and sales both need to be on board with that, so that what marketing's doing with their content and creating information online is going to attract them. But then when that transition happens over to a salesperson, if you have that set up where you have a separate marketing and sales group or separate marketing and sales teams, sales needs to understand what's already happened, so that when that handoff occurs, then they're prepared without having to do all of the homework and all the research to figure out what's actually happened up to this point. And then they can take it from there, and they'll have I don't want to say easier time, but a better chance of closing it at that point because it's more qualified. It's more relevant.
Yeah. This is great. And later we're going to share some examples. But before we talk more, share more, ask more questions, I want to give a quick shout out. Our friend Peter is here, of course, and he's on different social media channels. and monitoring comments and questions. So if you guys have any question, please feel free to tag my friend Peter and let him know what questions you have. And a bunch of people just join us live, and we are talking about the differences between sales and marketing with my dear friend Vicky. And if you have any question, please leave them in the comment section. And Sway is with us, and Laura is with us, and John Experience with us. And Laura is here, and thank you so much for joining us, everyone, for staying up late. I know many of you guys in the UK are pretty late, so I appreciate you guys. And so I have a question for you, Vicky. And we were talking about marketing and sales. And like this year, I read Mark Schaefer's book, The Marketing Rebellion. If you guys haven't had a chance to read this book, please make sure you check it out. I also had the honor to have Mark on my show. We also talked about this. So in his book, he argued the sales funnel is gone, right? So at the same time, my other dear friend, who is also an influencer in content marketing in social media, and Julia McCoy, and she is the founder of Express Writers. So she also made a similar argument, saying that this sales funnel is gone. It's no longer serving us. It's no longer working. So since you are such an expert on the differences between sales and marketing, so I really want to know, what is your perspective on this? So do you think the sales funnel is gone? And so explain this to us. What do you think about this?
Yes, I would have to agree with both Mark and Julia. And I'm a huge fan of Mark's. He probably already knows.
Oh, look at that.
Fan, which I may have let out already, but he, so I completely agree. I think people kind of get caught up in the sales funnel concept because it's what they know, but it's based on a very linear process. So it was, created years and years ago, decades ago, when if you're sitting there watching TV and you see a commercial for a refrigerator and you're in the market for a refrigerator, you see the commercial, you either pick up the phone and call, find out the hours, or you go in there, talk to somebody, not ready to buy, go home. One salesperson has your information. They follow up with you. You eventually go back in and you close. That's very linear. Today, at that point, really the salesperson's kind of in control. I mean, really the customer still is, because they could have gone to 3 other places, but there's more control in the salesperson's hand at that point. But today, there are so many starting points that
That's right.
There's not a funnel. Everybody's in different places. They're in different points at when they actually need it. Somebody whose refrigerator just broke down and they have like a ton of food and they need a brand new one like now, they're going to be looking completely different than somebody who's, I just want to upgrade my kitchen in 6 months, so I need to start looking at them. So the mindset and the triggers behind someone actually purchasing a refrigerator are going to be different, even though they're both needing a refrigerator. So a sales funnel is more set up on business processes and business tools, whereas today it's more focused on the customer and the customer emotions and the customer triggers. So we're trying to take a customer's, emotional buying situation, trying to cram it into a business tool, and it just doesn't work that way anymore. So we really need to be paying attention to the, what's happening with people more so than we are needing to look at tools and what our internal processes are.
Wow, I love this. I wonder if you can share an example with us. Do you happen to have any examples to share with us? I think what you just mentioned is very clear, but I would love to hear, kind of walk us through an example in terms of how we do sales and marketing, like back then, a few years ago, versus today, or maybe even moving forward into 2020.
Well, this is more of a, it's like we've all probably heard of the concept know, like, and trust. And it's know, like, trust, buy. And I've kind of taken it to an extra step on both ends. So before the know and after the buy. So what I'm going to show here real quick is share screen. I'm going to go.
You're so prepared. Okay.
Can you see it?
Yours is amazing. Yes. Let me share.
Okay.
Hold on. Can you? I don't, yeah, can you share the screen with me?
Oh, I think, am I doing that? Share. Oh, wait, sorry, I don't have my glasses on. Maybe it's not working. Your
It
entire
should be working.
application, Chrome application. Let's see if that works. Ah, okay. Is that working?
Oh, yes. Hold on.
Now, can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, so you can see the know, like, and trust.
Yes.
Okay. So this is something that instead of like a sales funnel, this is more of, and it's not linear either, but it's a scatter just because everybody's coming in at different points. So this is just more for explanation purposes. And if we think of marketing and sales and even adding customer service, because they're involved in this process as well, if you think of those three teams, or just simplify it with marketing and sales, both or all three are actually responsible for revenue. So sales can't do their job. They can't close a deal. They can't prospect without marketing. So marketing has some skin in the game, which means they're partially responsible for generating revenue. They just don't get paid that way. So what this is looking at, before you can get into the whole know, like, and trust, somebody needs to know you before they can like you, before they can trust you, before they'll buy from you. You first have to define your situation. And that's where the customer personas come in. So that's what I've done here, is to show, before somebody can actually get to know who you are, let's define who your customers are so you can be where they are. And that's what I'd mentioned earlier with creating personas. So it's taking even a step back before you start marketing and just really understanding who your target audience is. And it's an in-depth process. A lot of companies don't want to do this. They don't like to do it because it is very time-consuming. But if they have somebody on board that's, really good with research or analytics or interviewing, because you need to interview customers or prospects in order to get this information and create personas. So that's a critical piece of marketing and sales. If a company or someone who's in business for themselves is, they're doing a lot of marketing, they're not getting the sales results that they want, maybe they don't have the right market or target audience defined, or they don't have it defined appropriately. And that's where the define comes into place. So 2 things on that is just identify who your target audience is, and then really dig down deep to find out what's the emotional triggers that's going to happen with those individuals in order for them to buy your product or service. Once that's defined and you're in the place where they can find you, now it's all about educating and sharing information with them so they can start to get to know you. And if you think of this entire process, it can take a lot of time, depending on how much time, resources, and effort you put into educating your target audience. So in order to do that, that's where you start, creating things that will help them understand who you are as a brand, how you are going to solve their problem, where you can actually serve them, what they can expect from you when you start to do business with them. So it's really starting to build up that baseline and infrastructure of who you are. Once they know who you are, now it's kind of like, all right, I know who they are. I'm kind of interested. Now, what can you start doing as a company to get them to start liking you? And that's just showing up on a consistent basis, showing value. What can you bring to the table? What can you show me ahead of time that I can use and that's going to help me before I'm making any type of commitment to you with an email address or my time, and especially my money? So providing that type of information up front, that could be, creating opportunities for engagement through downloads or subscribes or registrations, free webinars, something like that, so they can see what they can expect in order to do business with you. Once they like you, now it's like, okay, now I get it. I know who they are. I like what they're doing. I love what value they're providing to me. I can see how they might be able to solve my problem. And now they're starting to trust you. Now you're starting to show up on a regular basis, and you're there. You've proven yourself over and over again. And now they're starting to really trust you. Now at this point, it's okay, great. Marketing's doing all all of this information. They're providing great content. They're engaging. They're responding. Sales is involved as well. They're following up. They're now understanding what that type of customer persona wants and needs, what they're responding to. Sales can now engage with them in a different way as well. And they're starting to engage more one-on-one. Maybe they're now saying, hey, I would like to have a call with a salesperson or a marketing person. I've got some questions. They're engaging with live chat. They're really showing some of those buying patterns or buying habits that are saying, I'm really interested. Now I just need you to kind of give me that final, good feeling that I'm making a good decision. And then they're ready to buy. They trust you. They're ready to move forward. They see you as a solution provider to what they need at that time. And, that's when sales is really involved. They're looking at negotiations, contracts, sales. That's when the actual sale takes place, is after the trust is already built. And once they've purchased from you, it doesn't stop there. It costs a lot more, as you can tell, just from that high level review of trying to get a customer on board. That's very time consuming. It's very costly. So it does cost less money to keep a customer than it does to try and win a new customer. So once you've got a customer on board, treat them like royalty, evaluate what went well, evaluate what you could do better. How can we now take this process and repeat it? That is so important, because at that point you've got customer service involved, you had sales involved, and you had marketing involved. They were all part of that process. And I think companies and people sometimes lose sight of that. They just think of sale and that's it. But all the parties were involved at that point, and they should all be involved in figuring out, what does this look like and how can we repeat this and make this a better process and win more customers like we just did. And that can happen through, creating a business strategy, starting high level, what's the business strategy? And then the revenue team strategy, which is the marketing and sales and customer service, content strategy and retention strategy. So you're starting high level, and then you're just drilling down with each one, and everybody's working towards the same common goal. So that is the know, like, and trust process that I came up with to kind of demonstrate the importance of marketing, sales, and customer service working together. Cool. Let me try and stop that again. Oops, stop sharing. Are you still there? I think, did we lose I?
I'm back.
Ah, there you are. I was talking, so I'm not sure if all that went through or not.
Sorry. I may just disappear for a second to close the curtain a little bit. But here's a comment from Suan. And yeah, and she was talking about, earlier you were talking about the emotional triggers, and she said that you were touching on the psychological and the emotional triggers for what motivate people to take action. And I think that is what you are talking about, even at this conference right now at my inbound. So the session I went to today, and it was from my dear friend Kathy, and she was really also talking about the same thing, really that emotional trigger, right? It is so important to tap into that human emotion. So I wonder if you have some tips to share with us. So how can we discover that? Like, how can we get started on this journey, kind of transitioning from the old way of practicing sales and marketing, that funnel, that linear model, to this new way, like tapping into the emotion and what you just explained to us?
Yeah, so really, in order to tap into the emotional side of what triggers someone to purchase any type of product or service, really boils down to creating the personas. And I know it sounds so like, personas, but it's a very involved process that you actually ask questions that dive deep into what action, you put yourself in your customer's shoes. And I just went through this exercise with someone recently, and it's like, just put yourself in that person's shoes and just walk through. And there's a series of questions, and it's almost like writing a journal entry or like, writing a diary. I mean, it's really getting to what keeps them up at night. What is on their whiteboard that is, the highest priority, but they just really can't seem to get to. What's their biggest challenge that they really can't figure out how to overcome? So you're really drilling into some things that aren't marketing or sales related. They're just more psychology related, because it's the emotional aspect of it that gets people to buy. So unless you actually understand that piece, it becomes more of a challenge to win those people over. So
yeah.
Great, you can still get sales, but if you can really tap into the emotional side of it and be there at that point when, hey, I need something, or I'm going to start researching for it, it helps, and it just makes the process easier.
Totally. And so I don't know if we have a bunch of people just join us live, and we have quite a few people on LinkedIn. Okay. And so right now we're talking about the differences between sales and marketing. And you are also hashtag persona queen. So I really love how you introduce this concept of creating this ideal persona and tie that into sales and marketing. So what do you think are some common mistakes that people make when it comes to like creating this ideal persona?
I think the mistakes is they keep it real surface. They think, they keep it based on like maybe demographics. It's, now CEO who is 45 years old and has 2 children in college, so it's high level. It's not the emotional side of it. In some businesses that might be important to know, but to me that seems more of a B2C type route to take, which makes sense. And the templates I've created, the B2C version has that information, but the B2B is more, how long have they been in that position? How long have they been with the company? What's their biggest struggle? What's their, where are they spending their time in, business type situations? Are they on LinkedIn? Are they in forums? Are they going to networking events? So it's really tapping into some of those things that are more business related and understanding how they're spending their time and who they're spending their time with, and then what their biggest struggles and obstacles and what's holding them back, and why can't they move their business forward? Is it because they don't have enough people? They don't have the right people? And sometimes it's not even a marketing or sales related issue. It could be an HR issue, but it's not known at, that high level. So I think that's where a lot of people, I don't want to say it's making a mistake. It's just not knowing that they need to take a deeper dive, or maybe not knowing that it's okay to take a deeper dive and really understand the inner workings, I guess, of a CEO in that example.
Yeah. This is great. So actually, we do have a number of questions. Everyone is like, love what you just shared, and so thank you. And so let's take a few questions from our live audience.
Okay.
And so I just saw this question from my friend Ursula. She's bringing her students to watch this. So she asked, from what stage of defining the persona do you find out their emotional trigger? And what questions do you ask? I love this question. Yeah, so if you can give us maybe a list of questions, everyone can take some notes and we can start practicing. And also, I want to do this because last week, when I had Ryan Folland on the show, we did a kind of a live coaching. So I wonder if anyone, I hate to always use Peter, but Peter, you are always more than welcome to join us live. But anyone in the audience, if you want to do a live coaching session with Vicky, or to do a critique of your persona, or if you are struggling with creating your ideal persona, please send me a note or tag Peter and I can bring you onto the show.
Yeah, and I told Peter I wasn't going to throw him under the bus or put him on. I wasn't going to put him out there, so he had to do that. So Peter, if you're listening, you don't have to do that.
I would love to have you, but yes, yeah.
I've got to move this real quick. Sorry. I've never done any live videos or any type of video at this time, so it's a little different for me. Sorry about that. I'm going to turn it this way a little bit.
No worries. Now we are doing a house tour.
Yeah, exactly. Just a room tour. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
Oh, no worries.
Okay. Hopefully that'll be better. Still not. All right, now you get to see a mirror behind me. That's a little bit better. All right, there we go. So I do have questions. There's like a long list of questions that I can pull up, but I can definitely.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, maybe you can also share with us. This is a broader question. I know you have. See, we are stealing Vicky's secret. So I know you have a template, right? So maybe you can kind of share the template with us
Yes.
and show us some of the questions. So great question. Thank you so much for asking, Ursula.
Yes, and actually, what I can do too is put. I've actually got a link to the templates. I've created a page on my website for this live show, so that there's different things that people can connect to, and a link as well to like the Persona podcast episode that I did. So, he's such a team player.
That's why I love Peter so much. He's the best. Yeah.
So they can access the templates, but I can pull them up here too. I don't have them pulled up at this moment. I wanted to make sure I had everything shut down in case it was taking up any type of bandwidth on my Wi-Fi. So if you can just give me a moment, I can
Yes,
pull it,
no worries.
as well as the questions. Let me see here.
And now, like as you are getting ready, thank you for joining us, Lisa, Krista, bunch of people, Shwa on LinkedIn, Tina on Facebook. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. Ursula, thank you. And
I heard you say Krista. She said she was going to be here.
Yeah, Krista is here. She's joining us live on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Okay, well, I've got the template pulled up. So let me share the screen. Is it okay if I share the screen now?
Yes, please.
I'll pull up the template and, share here. All right, so can you see it?
Yes. Oh, wow. Look at this, everyone. This is amazing.
So this is just a document. This is what you can actually download from the website. So it just kind of talks through, and these aren't the questions, but it just talks through the process that you would go through. But this is an example of what the template would look like for B2B. So again, I don't need to know age or anything like that because it's not important for what I'm trying to do. But this is where you look at, what are their goals? What's their role in the buying process? What are their pain points? The most critical decision criteria. So what do they need in order to actually make a decision? Quotes, common objections. What's their marketing message and their elevator pitch? Why is that information important? Because that's information that you will use in order to create content for your audience. So we could just name this person and we'll call this person, Sarah. So Sarah, and I've got all this information written out, and I know who Sarah is. She's one of my personas in my target audience. Now, when I'm starting to write marketing copy, or I'm starting to create email templates, or I'm creating web content, whatever that is, I'm going to now become Sarah, and I'm going to think, okay, what pain points is Sarah having? And then I'm going to create marketing content, marketing message around that pain point, which is talking about how I'm going to solve that with my particular product or service. So this information comes in handy in order to going deeper and understanding what all of these aspects are so that the content online can be created particularly for this person. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing that for a second so I can pull up the questions.
So you mentioned that we can get a copy of this from your website. Is that right?
Yeah, and I'll put, there's a link right now on the page that I created for this to get to the Persona podcast episode that has a link to it, but I can also put a link there that goes directly to it so they don't have to go to that page. I wish I would have had this pulled up beforehand. I apologize.
No worries. I improvise a lot. Just FYI, if you come to my show, improvise. So I ask all those questions that are not on the list. So I do feel guilty. Yeah.
I'm trying to get to it. I'm almost there, I think. And I don't have my glasses on either, so that doesn't help. Okay, so buyer persona interview questions. There we go. Okay, it's pulling up. It's pulling up. All right, so I'll go back here and share my screen. Okay, so you're not seeing my screen right now, right?
Not yet, but
okay. Let me share screen and share screen.
Yes, it is here. Okay. By the way, Ursula asked if she can share this with her class. Is that okay?
Yes, and I can, if she doesn't want to write them down, I can send them to her as well.
No. Yeah, you can download the link, and you can also check out Vicky has a podcast, which we are going to discuss in a second, and you can listen to the episode and download this, which is great. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So this one, I have another one that goes more in depth too. This one's not as in depth, but this one goes into, what's the typical day in the life of that person's job. So that helps with understanding if there's a lot of processes or a lot of things that they're doing that maybe they shouldn't be doing. And that might be one of the obstacles that's keeping them from actually doing their job or writing good marketing content or targeting information to their persona. So their challenges, where do they go for information? Like I was mentioning before, is it LinkedIn? Is it networking events? Is it subscribing to a Mark Schaefer podcast? His podcast, Marketing Companions, number in the top 1% of business podcasts in the, I don't know if it's country or the world, but I think it's the world. Maybe that's one of their resources that they go to. That's important to know so that you know what type of information they're interested in, also where they're spending their time and how they
just to interrupt you for a second, because you mentioned podcast. Yesterday, right now I'm at Inbound, so I went to this session by Ron Des, and I'm a big fan of him. And he mentioned, guys, if you are listening to this, I like that session is like $500. And so he mentioned, don't waste too much time on social media. So his advice is launching a podcast or launching a live streaming show to really leverage this type of long form content that you are really offering lots of value to your audience, to use that to build trust, to keep your audience attention. And he also recommended, if you are having a show or podcast, don't do too much self-promotion or advertisement on your own show. But on the other hand, when you go to other people's show, when you're a guest, so feel free to promote yourself. He said that keep your best content to your own audience, which is really interesting because you mentioned podcasts. So I just want to throw that in there. So sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, no, not at all. I think that's interesting that you mentioned that because it goes back to what you and I were talking about. I think it was before we went live, and that, there was somebody that was saying email newsletters is the latest.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It really boils down to, starting a podcast is just like saying, hey, start a business, or hey, start a Facebook page. There really needs to be some thought and some strategy behind why you're doing it, what your purpose is for doing it, who you're trying to serve. There's a lot of thought that goes into it. So it's a new platform that I think more people are leveraging. And
exactly.
Like UI, you're doing such a fantastic job of getting different people on here from different backgrounds and helping your audience understand concepts from different perspectives. And
yes. Hashtag classroom without walls. Yeah,
exactly. And then my podcast is more recorded, but I'm doing the same thing. I'm getting people from different backgrounds with different industries and different situations to help my audience understand from different perspectives. So it's just like with anything, it's understand who your target audience is.
Exactly.
Where
goes back to this persona that we're talking about right now. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, and podcast is just one of those things. So if you understand where your persona is spending time, not only can you identify if there might be an opportunity for you to get in front of them, not necessarily with paid advertising, but Mark Schaefer is probably not a good example because I don't think he has guests on his podcast, but there might be an opportunity on another type of podcast to
absolutely
be involved or make comments, or like Mark does a a blog post to go along with it, make comments on the blog posts. So there's other ways to get in front of them. And that's why this type of information is important to know about your persona. How do prospects find you? Why do your customers choose you over other solutions? What would be the number one thing your raving fans would say about your brand? So that's, people who are actually loving that brand. That's good information to know as well, because now we know what people like about them. And, if that's something that we can incorporate into the message as well, positive is good. What would be consistent feedback you get from your customers about improvements? I'm not going to read through each one, but this is the type of information that, you would actually have an interview with that person to just better understand that piece of the persona, and then how to develop content to actually reach them. And then there's another one too that has, it's a deeper level. It's like a 5-page document. This one's more interview questions. And then there's another one that actually has you step into the shoes of that person. So it's not, you start off being that person. So if, I was trying to reach teachers, I would step into a teacher mindset, and I would go through these different questions about what I like, what I don't like, what my challenges are. So I would become that person and go through this list of questions that would help me identify who this person is from my perspective. And then you would ask the interview question. So it's like a 2-step process.
I love this. So because we're talking about persona, so here is a question from my friend. People are asking lots of persona related questions. I can see that is a struggle many people are dealing with. So let me share my screen right now, and we are going to ask our hashtag persona queen. Make sure you guys are following Vicky on social media. And so here's the question from my friend Mario. And he asked this question. He's joining us live from LinkedIn. Thank you for joining us live. And his target audience is educator, so mainly school principals. So how would you adapt the persona to other professionals, since the elevator pitch and such may not apply? Do you fully understand the question, Vicky? You are smarter than me.
So he's asking if it sounds like it would be the B2B persona.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you're a professional and you're addressing other professionals, if I understand the question correctly, that would be the B2B persona template, or the persona questions. And you could cater or customize the questions based on that industry. So my questions could be a starting point for getting to that point, but it doesn't mean that you're limited to those questions. If it makes sense to ask more education related questions. So as a principal, they have other issues. It could be within the district. It could be with budget. It could be with superintendents. It's a different level. It's a different type of situation. And he would know more about that than I would. But that's a great example of how the persona can differ from each person to each target audience. And that's why it's important to have a starting point and then just customize it to what your particular needs are.
Yeah, I love this. And I just saw this question from my dear friend Lori, and this is going back to what we kind of discussed earlier. So sorry, I didn't notice this question. So she asked if you think our consumer customers are becoming more skeptical than before because we get so much information from every single place.
Yes, a simple answer is yes. And the reason being is because consumers would rather hear about a product or service from another consumer. They would, most of the time they're tuning out companies, and that's why they're going to reviews and they're going to Facebook and asking other people about it. And they're talking to their friends to say, hey, who did you call for a plumber when, your pipe burst? So they're relying on other people and their experiences because they know they're going to get a true and authentic answer. From a company perspective, their perception is we're going to tell them whatever they want to hear, and they really don't know what to expect. So it goes back to that whole know, like, and trust. If you're putting the information out there, and even if you can take the information, I was just talking to Ruthie Bowles. I interviewed her yesterday for a future episode, and she was talking about user-generated content and using that in materials. And Mark Schaefer actually and Brooke Sellis actually mentioned that. I think it was either the last episode or 2 episodes ago, where companies are now taking the feedback they're getting from their customers and incorporating it into their marketing. So, and of course, getting approval. But an example would be, if you're a clothing store and someone wrote in about a wool sweater. Now, if you've ever had a wool sweater, of course, we all know those are not comfortable. They may be warm, but they're not comfortable. So they were saying how comfortable it was. It wasn't itchy, and they would highly recommend anybody. So that company took that feedback, got their approval, and they ended up using that as an advertisement. So ad from the company, but really it was feedback from somebody that they incorporated into an ad. And that's going to have a lot more weight than that company saying, hey, you need to buy my wool sweater because it's warm and it's not itchy. Same message, different perspective.
Yeah, so true. And again, I was just at yesterday, and we heard this lady, Sarah Blakely. I don't know how many people follow her. Yes, she's really famous on Instagram. So she shared her marketing strategy, which is really this word of mouth, starting with a few friends, and they are spreading what you're talking about. We trust what our friends are telling us a lot more than what we're hearing from marketers, which is, so that's her kind of her marketing secret. Yeah. And this is kind of an interesting question, and a little bit related to what we're discussing right now. And this is probably the last question we can take. So Arsalan asked us, where can you draw the line between trust and manipulation, psychological manipulation in terms of marketing?
That's a great question. I hadn't really thought of it to that extent, but I can understand completely where you're coming from. And I think it is a matter of just looking at it from your customer's eyes. If you've got a message where it's kind of questionable and you're like, oh my gosh, am I doing too much here to win them over? Then just put yourself in their shoes and see how that is perceived, or ask other people, outside of your industry or outside your company who have an outside perspective, what that seems like to them if they were to approach your company with that message, or if they were to see it someplace. I don't know that there's a defined line, but obviously there's a line that can be crossed in any situation with any type of company. So I would just say, if that's the situation and you're not sure, I'm one for always getting a second opinion.
Yeah, totally. And also, I think, I think consumers are getting smarter and smarter. So my approach to marketing is really this organic sharing content. I'm launching a second live streaming show. So again, offering valuable content to my community has helped me generated lots of meaningful connections and leads. And I think, in the long run, this type of manipulation, I don't know, I just don't feel really comfortable. Yeah. Anyway,
as a person too, I think we're all influenced by different levels of trust and different levels of information and different levels of manipulation. So I mean, you would have to know
exactly. And also, I think, many things can be easily manipulated, can also be easily purchased. For example, I read this article this morning, and Facebook is going to remove the number of likes. And Instagram has started that. Facebook is thinking about it. You never know what's going to happen to Twitter, what's going to happen on LinkedIn. So I think maybe that's a good thing. We're moving toward this more authentic, more organic approach to marketing. So this is a great discussion so far. And so share with us, you have a podcast which is called Connect the Dots. So can you kind of tell us what this podcast is about, and helping us connect the dots of the things that we have discussed so far? Sales, marketing, persona, kind of put all the pieces or dots together for us, and also share with us where we can discover your podcast.
Yeah. So Connect the Dots was something that I came up with based on my experience with marketing and sales, and just really being able to connect the dots between those two teams. And it's amazing when I talk to people that they actually incorporate it into their verbiage without even realizing it. That is not manipulating. That's just them. But yeah, so it was all about connecting the dots between what marketing is doing and what sales needs, because I think everybody's either experienced it, heard about it, read about it, that there's a gap someplace. And when there's a gap, there's a need to connect it or bridge the gap. And so I just used my experience in marketing and sales, what I was seeing in the marketplace, and the biggest challenges that I had been hearing or seeing myself and talking with clients and prospects is that there's just a huge disconnect. And I mean, basically it boils down to communication. That's the basic infrastructure of the breakdown between marketing and sales. And then once that's fixed, then you can just take it from there. But the podcast is focused on those departments or those leaders who need to be working together in order to make more synergistic decisions, working towards one common goal, and really connecting the dots between marketing, sales, personas, branding, customer service, the entire company, and just knowing that it's okay to have other teams involved in what you're doing. It's just better overall for the company.
Yeah. It's not like just a one person or one team, but all the teams need to work together. Yeah, I love this. So what is next for you? And anyone in the live audience, and I don't have much time left. So if you are interested in doing a persona critique, please leave your name in the comment section. And also I want to show you guys that Peter actually shared the link to go to Vicky's podcast on different social media platforms. So please feel free to click on the link and subscribe and check out her podcast sessions, and also can probably link to the questions that you shared with us earlier, right, Vicky? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's a link to the VickyO'Neill.com/AI, and it'll give you a lot of the information that we talked to today. So it's not artificial intelligence. It's the real thing. Yeah, so your name. So just AI. I thought I'd make it simple and just make it relevant. So they can just go to that. And then there's a lot of that information, a link directly to the podcast. I've got a persona webinar tomorrow, 2 different sessions, that there's a link. If anybody wants to sign up for that, you can go to that link /IAI and register for that. And yeah, there's other information there too, if anybody's interested.
Oh, wow, this is great. So what time is the webinar?
There's one tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Eastern, and then there's another one at 3 p.m. Eastern.
Okay, so I will also try to find the link. And so if anyone is interested, please definitely reserve a spot and check out this. I definitely can't wait to learn more about this. And so today's conversation has given me more clarity on this and helped me see how important this is. So what is next for you, Vicky? Share with us. What is the next big thing that you are working on?
Well, I'm continuing with the podcast, and you'd mentioned having Mark Schaefer on your podcast. He's actually going to be on my podcast in November. Super excited about that. So that's huge for me, but that's on the podcast. And then in my business, I'm working on online courses to help either entrepreneurs, small business owners, mid-sized companies, people who are struggling with marketing and sales and really bridging the gap between those two, and more online courses that they can subscribe to, they can register for and take those courses themselves. And, me be there as like a coach or an accountability partner to help them get through that process. So that is something that I'm working on now.
Oh, that sounds so exciting. And both of them, I can't wait to check out your interview with Mark Schaefer. That sounds amazing. And I just saw this comment from my friend Jerry, which is true. Stay true to yourself. I think, marketing is a long-term game. It's not transactional, right? It's more like relationship building long-term.
Yes.
And so I think the ethics is very, very important. Yeah. So where can people learn more about you? Share your social media handles with us.
Yes. So they can go to VickyO'Neill.com, and everything, all of my social handles are in the footer of my website, but I am spending most of my time on LinkedIn. So it's the LinkedIn/IN/Vicky O'Neill. That's where I spend the majority of my online time.
Yes. So I love your website, by the way. This is really great. And so thank you so much for joining us live. And if you guys have any last minute questions, let me know. If not, I'm going to go review the questions later. We have so many people join us from different channels. Thank you so much. And next week, I have the same time and same location. And I have the one and only Brian Wallace to join us live to discuss LinkedIn Local. Actually, yesterday I joined my very first LinkedIn Local in Boston. It was really nice.
Yeah.
Yes, and connected with quite a few entrepreneurs. And I'm interested in organizing a LinkedIn Local myself in Philadelphia. But if any one of you is interested in learning more about LinkedIn Local, how to organize one, and what is the procedure, and how can your personal brand or business benefit from hosting or attending LinkedIn Locals, join us live next Wednesday, the same time, same location, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And Vicky, you are so amazing, and thank you so much for sharing slides and everything, and so many great points. And thank you so much for being a guest on the show. And Peter just shared Vicky's LinkedIn profile. Everyone, please connect with her. And thank you so much, Peter. And so follow her, check out her podcast. And thank you so much, everyone. Join us live.
Thank you so much. I greatly appreciate it. It was such an honor to be here.
Oh, lovely. And I will see you online.
Okay.
And thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, everyone. I will see you. I hope to see you next Wednesday, same time, same location. Bye.